Welcome to the DL. This is the show where we talk about everything in the truck and equipment repair industry. It's my job to help inform and educate you on ways to help your business. We talk with technicians, business owners, associations, industry experts, manufacturers, and even a few you wouldn't think traditionally apply to your business. Welcome everyone to another episode of the DL. I'm your host, Tyler Robertson, the CEO and founder of Diesel Laptops. So thank you very much for taking some time to listen or watch us on YouTube today. And this is the show where we get to talk about everything to do with truck diagnostics. And it's not too often I get to talk and meet with somebody else who's in the commercial truck diagnostic and repair industry. So with all that said, I'm going to introduce you to LITE-CHECK. So I won't tell the story and everything about it yet, but I just want to say, Bob, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you very much, Tyler. A pleasure to be here.
So you're the founder, CEO, president, just about everything at LITE-CHECK.
Well, also the janitor.
We all, you know what? We all got to do that. I pick up garbage around here as well. You see it on the floor, you got to pick it up, right?
Yep.
So we were just talking before this, though. It sounds like this is your first time traveling. I just traveled for the first time on a plane in about 18 months, a couple weeks ago. Same
true.
for you?
That's true with me. You know, I had a sense of anxiety of just getting on a plane again. But
yeah,
it passed.
Yeah, I was the same way. I was like, man, I got to wear a mask the whole time. I wasn't looking forward to it at all. But all that aside, let's just tell everyone, you know, at the high level, who is LITE-CHECK and what do you guys do?
It's one of those stories you never could predict. I get a call. I moved to Spokane from Silicon Valley, where I spent 20 years in semiconductors. And I get a call from somebody in the valley down there saying, I got a tester for testing lights on trailers. And I said, why do you need that? And that's where it started.
Yeah, and when was this?
1985.
So 85, I mean, this is pre-electronic and everything else.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And today, what do you guys actually make today and sell? What's your products and services?
Well, our products are focused on the trailer from birth to death. In other words, our primary products are both the certifier, which goes into the OEMs for end-of-the-line testing for 121 brake timing, and then products that go into the shop for maintenance and diagnostics.
So these are bigger diagnostic tools, and you really got started before things were electronic, right?
Oh, absolutely. Although I did use my, shall we say, knowledge on electronics and building the first product.
So the first product, was it just testing lights on trailers? Is that where it started with?
A very simple product, but it diagnosed the circuits. It told the technician the condition of the circuit, which no one had done.
So you just decided on a whim to start a company up?
Well, it wasn't a whim, but on the other hand, it becomes a passion.
It does.
It becomes a passion.
I totally get it. Like I'm very passionate about diesel laptops. I go to bed thinking about it. I wake up thinking about it, and I get to do it all day long. I'm like, man, I get paid to do this. It's unbelievable sometimes.
And then your wife asks you, well, who are you more passionate about?
Been there more than once. So I'm sure my wife's listening to this. She listens to the episodes every once in a while. So now I got to tell her, like, look, I got to get you into a podcast episode. So she'll appreciate that.
Yeah.
Right. So the diagnostic tools you have, they're I guess let's describe them for everybody. And if today's tools, the verifier, and the inspector, I believe the two main tools that you guys have. One's for the trailer manufacturers, one's for the actual shop.
Yeah.
What do they actually test?
Well, think of our tools as a tractor, a smart tractor, because we are measuring all the conditions of the air system and the electrical system and ABS. And we can produce a report, and therefore you can start doing diagnostics.
Okay. So it's air, electrical. I mean, these things are pretty advanced machines, right?
Yes.
These aren't little handheld things. These are tabletop type equipment.
Yeah.
Yep. So you have to run air compressors to them to get air to them? Is that?
Yeah, they do require power and air, but on the other hand, we regulate it. Because so typical in a shop, they don't know what their power source looks like. They have no idea what the air is.
Yeah. So I saw one of the videos on your front of your webpage. The guy had a tablet in his hand. He's like walking around hitting buttons, and the trailer lights are flinking. So it sounds like it got pretty advanced.
We're way ahead that way. Absolutely. And so in that sense, we came out with that product about 2 or 3 years ago, and it's starting to really take off.
All right. So you have this tabletop unit. You hook it up to the trailer.
Right.
You run air to it. The tool hooks itself to the electrical. I'm assuming the 7 plug on the trailer.
Yep.
And then the operator has a tablet.
Yes.
And is that what they use then to go through and run the commands and tests? Or is it automated, or is it manual, or
well,
what's the
it's
procedure
kind
like?
of a combination. In other words, he can do just independent diagnostics, but if he's doing a DOT, and I want to talk about the DOT report, then it forces him to follow a process, and it collects the information automatically, so that when you are finished, you got a verifiable report that the DOT will recognize. And so it contains data and photos and comments and so forth, so that the shop now has far more information than they've ever had before.
All right, so I get it. You don't have to have a truck hooked up then to do
Correct.
your trailer inspections. This thing, like I said, smart truck essentially, right? It does it for you and catalogs it and log in all that stuff.
Yeah.
How long does it take someone to actually go through a trailer inspection? Like, what's the average time?
Well, I would guess to do a full DOT report would probably be 15 minutes. But the real savings is the data, because you can cut out a lot of backroom work and have predictability. That is the real advantage. I've heard it over and over again.
So the technician performs the inspection, and then the inspection's done. Is it something that prints out? Is it something on the tablet? How do they view that report?
All the above.
Okay.
But it basically goes into a cloud site that's secure, and now the company has a history of that trailer, and of course now they can look at the fleet as a whole. Okay. They can identify how many bad tires that they've replaced.
Okay, so they have a web dashboard where they can log into on the website and look at all this information and everything. Yeah, so I mean that's crazy, because when you look at back, you said 85, right? So 85 was ABS even a thing on trailers in 85? No, so it was just lights essentially.
Lights,
right?
and so they'd hook it up to their $110,000 tester called a tractor.
Yep.
And had a driver. And that's the way they would power things up, unless they made a switch box.
Okay, so you come along. So first it was that, then ABS came along, right? And ABS is its whole other thing. How did you guys manage that? Was that a big deal at the time?
Yes, it was. In fact, it came by because I started asking questions. How does ABS work? And I discovered that PLC had both the sender and a receiver chip. Okay. So the tractor was a receiver chip.
Yep.
So we install the receiver chip in our tester, and it acts like a tractor. But it also reads the codes.
Okay.
So it gives the technician far more information than he ever imagined.
Yeah, I mean we're a bunch of idiots when it comes around here to trailers. Like customers will ask us, they'll go, "Hey, how do I hook up? Will your tool hook up to if a trailer's hooked up to the truck? Can I use it for diagnostics?" We're like, sometimes we just say, well, the newer the truck, the newer the trailer, odds are you can use the truck diagnostic port. Is that
maybe?
Yeah, like that.
What if the truck is not producing the right kind of power for whatever reason?
Yeah.
Or the biggest problem they have with ABS is power.
Yeah.
And so, what is the power at the ECU level, and especially when you're talking about combinations?
Yeah. So we always tell customers, best thing you can do, buy the PLC, the power line carrier adapter, so you can split that 7-pin to 9-pin, which is the standard we use on truck.
Yeah.
The trailer 7-way. Bring a battery out there with you, power up the truck, and then do it.
And that is a problem, because they don't know what the battery charge is.
Yep.
And if they're trying to do a reliable test at 10 volts, that's not the same as a 413.
Yeah, and it'll still power up enough to read, but the things won't operate the same.
And so the firmware in the tester takes care of all that.
Yeah.
It immediately identifies a issue if it's low power.
So I guess the question I have to ask is, you were basically doing mechanical things with the electrical testers, right? Then ABS came along. You had to get a little bit into the software game.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, like how of a transition was that? Because that's kind of what we're trying to do at Diesel Laptops, is be a software company, right?
Yeah.
So what was it like for you guys to be able to do that?
Trial and error.
Sounds familiar.
And you talk about rabbit holes. Okay,
yeah.
I found a few.
Yeah. It's a tough transition to make, and even now. So we've been talking all day how things are changing, and I know we're going to talk about smart trailers here in a second, but already where we see it is that diagnostics happens on the shop, in the shop environment. And as I was telling you guys, like, man, now data's coming off the vehicles before they even get to a shop, and it just that one little thing changes a lot of things all of a sudden in our industry.
Well, the thing is that the fleet may see a fault being sent, but what is the real nature of that fault? Is it a sensor issue? Is it a power issue? Or is it an operator issue? Until you get it in the shop, you really cannot tell where the real problem is.
Yeah.
It can be diagnosed.
Yeah, and things got really complicated, especially in the aftermarket world, right? Because, before it used to be like one wire for one thing, and then multiplex wiring came around, and things got more complicated. And even now we're going through all our fault codes, because customers are asking, like, I got 5 codes, which one's the most important? I'm like, okay, we need a severity rating. Well, some of the fault codes actually give you a severity rating, but when we look at it, it's just a severity rating for that component. So, like, okay, great. So a DPF has a high importance severity fault code, and that just means you're going to get derated. Your truck's not going to blow up. That's different than a high severity rating for, say, your oil pressure, right? Yeah. That's really bad. Your engine's probably going to blow up, or low oil pressure, right? So we're like, okay, how do we figure this out and make this a little bit easier for people? So a lot of things going on. But I'd love for you to talk about smart trailers a little bit. So as I've always said, I'm a dummy when it comes to trailers. Can you just kind of break down for everyone what is a smart trailer when we use that word?
Well, the smart trailer in general definition is a way of identifying all the critical items that are in operation on the trailer, which could be a door open, the low temperature, a light out. So I would like to suggest that there's 2 major elements. Part of it is conditional or operational, and the other one is out of service. So what is an out of service element that will lead that trooper on the side of the road say, wait a minute, I want to take a look at this. Yeah. But the other thing that's not too obvious in electrical especially is the intermittent issues. The light comes on or goes off intermittently.
The gremlins.
Yeah. The gremlins.
Yep.
And so to try to trace those problems can be a real task unless you have diagnostics to do it properly.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I do want to emphasize is that I've been a long-term member of TMC, CVSA, CTEA, I'll throw out the terms. And in any case, so I've been able to incorporate all their practices and recommendations to the T. So if in our software and firmware, if we see it goes outside of those conditions, then we raise a flag. There's your problem. It may not be the sensor at all.
Yeah, and we've been involved with TMC for several years now, and I was amazed when I first got in there to find out all those recommended practices they have, from how to grease a fifth wheel to to everything else, right? Like it's amazing how much they have, and the number of smart, knowledgeable people they have putting that stuff together. It truly is an industry thing. And I know you just mentioned you're going to TMC here pretty soon. We're going to trade shows, it sounds like.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we got a full cycle coming up. Like 4 or 5 shows.
Yeah. It's just it feels almost weird to be back to normal.
Overwhelming.
Yeah. So smart trailers, I mean, that's a whole nother game now, though. Let's just want to go back to that, because you have a lot of different component manufacturers. I've seen videos or products where there's sensors on landing gears, sensors on doors, sensors on lights, sensors on tires for air pressure. All these things, are these things all talking a common language with each other, or
no.
they're all their own thing?
Everybody's doing their own thing, and that's a real problem. Especially for the troopers on the side of the road. They're going to be dealing with the whole spectrum, but even some of the fleets are going to be dealing with a spectrum. So they need really to have one simple tool that will accommodate all of those different technologies.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, it reminds me of kind of what happened with truck. You had a bunch of different component manufacturers, and they first electronic. They all had their own diagnostic port. They're all using their own languages, and nobody could build a truck, and you had 10 different tools. It was a complicated thing, and they finally came together. And I see some people out there like Phillips trying to put some global stuff together to consolidate those things. So it'll be really interesting to see where all that goes. So your company's been around for 35 years. right? You went through the whole, from electrical to the ABS stuff to now you got Android apps and these things. And where do you see this thing going when you look down the road?
I don't have a clue.
Yeah.
I mean, it's changing so fast.
Yeah.
And of course, today's technology is evolving. But on the other hand, we do have the capability of, multiplexing as well as multiple wires, higher voltages, telemarketing, the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth and so forth. So at this point, we're trying to accommodate every conceivable method of collecting that information. And the real key is to get that information all on one file so that it follows the trailer rather than just sporadic.
Well, I want to switch gears a little bit because one of the things that...
He's trying to trick me.
No, definitely not trying to trick you. Here's the thing. Your company's been around for a long time, right? Mine's been around here for 6. And I literally thought my company was going to go out of business when COVID happened, right? Like I had the panic level 100. Right, and you've been around for a long time. Any keys to success or things you can say to kind of like how do I keep Diesel Laptops around for the next 35 years? Like to me, that seems like a long time. I don't know how we're going to do it.
I don't think there's a simple answer except faith.
Yeah.
I mean, it really boils down to what do I deal with today? What's the best way to handle? And of course, I keep foremost is how do I handle or not handle, but treat my employees the best way, my customers even better, and of course my vendors.
Yeah.
I need all 3 of them. So
yeah,
it's a balance.
If you had to look back over the last 35 years, any big mistakes or any ones you're kind of like, man, I really whiffed on that one, or that was on me. Anything good there come to mind at all?
How about whoops, I shouldn't have gone down that road.
Yeah, I think that's been a hard one for us too. Is when you talk about that, like we went down some wrong roads. We went down a lot of roads, and we all of a sudden found ourselves not making any progress because we're going down so many roads.
Yeah,
and we're like, okay, we got to really figure out what are we really good at here at Diesel Laptops, and that needs to be our focus here at Diesel. Did you fall into that trap at all too?
Oh yes, absolutely, and it is all people driven. Absolutely. Like this new technology, that's being driven by people who think that they have the right answer, and they may have. I don't question that.
Yeah, and it's hard too because even for me, I'm trying to bring experts in here. Like, hey, I need this thing done, and they're saying you need to do it this way, and another one says I need to do it that way, and I'm like, I have no idea. Like, I have no idea. That's why I hired you guys. Like, we need to figure this out. So it's a lot of road not travel in the whole thing.
Yeah. And of course, 20 years ago, we weren't so desperate in finding software developers.
Yeah. Do you struggle with that out west as well?
Oh yes, without a doubt. Yeah. But I have always been in software in some fashion, especially the firmware with the early testing.
Yeah, because you really have like the embedded software in your. Because your devices are part of mechanical, I guess, right? Because you have the air and electrical in there, and there's software as well.
But everything's gone software, and of course we used to have a lot of our controllable cards with through-hole devices. It's all gone surface mount now.
Yeah.
More reliable and more capability and cheaper.
Yeah. So, any new products coming out in the near future? Any new designs? Where are you guys at in the whole product cycle?
Well, in a way, we're looking to the industry to give us guidance there. I'm really focused on trying to find partners and I guess partners in developing the smart trailer technology, because I see that as a real need.
Yeah.
Whenever they come out with a new product, they're focused on the new product. But how do you get data from the field?
Yeah, that's that, and that, like I said earlier, that changes the game when you start taking data off vehicles.
Yeah.
It really impacts things, and I don't think people quite understand the dynamic that's shaping and changing in our industry and everything.
Yeah.
And then you had mentioned earlier too about DOT inspections.
Yes.
So do you mind kind of expanding on that, on what you wanted to talk about there?
Well, the typical fleet now has a paper form that they check.
Yep.
Oh, I check the lights, I check the tires, and so forth. And so our verifier now will develop a automated DOT report. It gives hard data, In other words, it shows what the voltage and the amperage of each circuit is, and along with air loss. So many of the shops, they have to depend on, can I hear that air loss? Well, you don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Well, we can measure it to the 10th of a pound per minute. And so having precise data, I have yet to see a circuit or an airline improve itself. It needs help.
So I remember being a service manager at a truck dealership, and we filled out these DOT annual paperwork, and it was always this carbon copy form that you fill out, right? Then you fill out a sticker
you couldn't
and
read
slap
the third or fourth copy.
No, you never could read. You never could, right? Especially it's people's handwriting, right? That's even worse.
Plus the fact you don't recall where you put it.
Yeah, exactly. So are digital versions allowed to be used, or does it have to be paper, or how does it?
It does not have to be paper, and we are in full compliant. So that means anybody that's authorized can download that report and all of the history. So in other words, like in California, they have the BIT program where they require a DOT every 90 days. Well, you literally go back to the last 4 years and see what the DOT reports look like. We had a situation where the state asked the fleet, we want to see your reports for the last 2 years. And the fleet was able to deliver that inside of 2 days in file form. And so we've never seen it that way before. We usually had to wait months and then get a pile of paper.
Yep. Yeah. No, that's really interesting. I just always assumed it had to be paper because that's the only thing I've ever seen up there. So does the driver then have like an app where they pull that on, or they save a picture of it, or how does the driver have it if it's digital?
However they want to do it. If they want to have a paper copy, which is the normal practice.
Yeah.
But ideally, if he can pull it down on his app, like for instance, if that trooper had access to that, he could pull it down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now that's way future.
Yeah.
Way future.
Yeah, it's almost like ELDs, right? Where the troopers need the ability to get a report no matter what brand it is to be able to see what's going on.
And it's really called assurance.
Yeah.
Because now he's got some. It's very easy for us to say if it's a printed form, I can believe it a lot easier than if it's a printed form than a copied form.
Yeah. Yeah.
Much easier.
No, I mean, it sounds like you had a great solution for not only doing the diagnostics on the trailers, right? And that needs to be done. And by the way, I didn't even know California did them every 90 days. Mm-hmm. I've always thought with commercial trucks, I'm like, man, a year's a long time. like there's a lot of things that can break in a year, and that's all they've ever required.
That was my first major contract.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah. In other words, the California Highway Patrol saw my little product release for that first tester.
Yeah.
And they called me and said, we need a tester that one patrolman can use and be guaranteed he's doing a good job.
Yep. No, and I know all these DOTs are looking for electronic tools now, right? Like they got, besides the whole safety thing that goes on with the lights and electrical and brakes and all that stuff, then you got people tampering with the emissions on these things, and that's a whole nother thing, and they're all looking for solutions. Like, we just want to plug a device in and tell us if the guy is cheating or not, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things going on, and again, I go back to COVID really sped up the whole digitalization, right? It just sped it up so fast, and everyone's looking for these new things now, so it's an interesting time to be alive.
Well, the biggest cost a fleet has is roadside.
Yeah.
Whether it's just a breakdown or whether it's an out of service. An out of service call on brakes is really expensive.
Yeah, I mean, that's really, we have that new DSER decoder tool. It's about $350, and that's exactly what it's meant for, is to help people at least pre-diagnose, right? And have the ability to send that data to a cloud, let someone help them. We think there's a lot of potential savings, before a breakdown even occurs, but when one does occur, to make sure that shop already knows what they're running into. Because in our world, people break down, their check engine light's on, they call a guy out, guy gets there, I don't have a diagnostic tool for that truck, right?
Or I'm missing that little part.
And then they get out there, like, you just need a sensor. Let me go drive back to the store to get the sensor, and I'll go back to your truck. And all of a sudden, if they would have had that data to begin with, they would have been able to do that stuff much, much quicker.
Yes.
So it's interesting times. Going back to your main products, I know there's the manufacturer one we didn't talk about much, but it sounds like that's a tool literally they use at manufacturers to do the end of line, and they run every trailer across it. Is that
right?
Essentially, yeah. The in-shop one, can you give some guidance on roughly where the pricing is on this thing? Is this a $200,000 tool? Is it what is
no,
it?
I wish, but no, it runs around $4,000 to $5,000.
Okay.
And so a new customer can call up and ask just to buy the tool. He can get a printed report, and then if he decides that he wants to see the analysis and do some diagnostics, he can proceed to get that.
Cool. Well, I'll tell you what, how do people get a hold of LITE-CHECK, right? So if they want to get a hold of LITE-CHECK or you or your sales team, what's the best way to do that?
I guess the easiest thing is just to go LITECHECK.com.
Yeah, and it's LITE, right?
LITE.
Do you have a dash in the website too, I believe? So it's LITE dash CHECK.com. So
Yep.
Yeah, no, and it's been really great having you here. It's been great learning about your company. I know you've got to learn about Diesel Laptops a little bit today as well. You know, I think if people have learned anything in this podcast, usually when I get people here, it means we're talking about something. So we'll see if this something comes up between us and LITE-CHECK. But I think it makes sense. Diesel Laptops, we're doing really great on the tractor side of it. And then we've always kind of been like, that trailer stuff, we don't know much about that. It's not been our thing. And you guys are the exact opposite.
Yes, yeah. So we're great partners that way.
Yeah. So I think hopefully there will be some things people see between us and Diesel Laptops and LITE-CHECK in the near future and everything.
And we can give them a simplified solution.
I agree. I think there's a lot of ways to work together. I'm excited to see where it goes. I think we can probably throw out 50 ideas, and I'm sure we'll pick one or two of them and see where things go. So.
And I'm always interested to see what the market needs.
Yeah, same thing here. People always ask us, how do you come up with these ideas? I'm like, well, I didn't. Somebody told me it was a problem, so we figured we'd make a solution for it, and maybe we'll make money off it somehow, some way.
Yes.
So, all right, with all that said, we're going to call it a wrap on this episode. I want to thank everybody who's been listening on Apple Podcasts, on SoundCloud, and everywhere else that we're on. Also on YouTube. We love our YouTube channel, love our viewers. And as we end every episode, I'm going to say it's not just diagnostics, it's diagnostics done right, and you need trailer diagnostics as well to do that. So with all that said, thank you for watching and listening. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you, Tyler.